Hi, everybody. Welcome to another exciting edition of Words, Images, and Worlds. I am delighted, honored, excited on this episode to be talking with comics creator Adam Gorham. Adam, thank you for jumping in, and thank you for the lovely shelfie in the back with the action figures and all of the comics accoutrement.
Hi, Jason. It's good to be on. I'm glad somebody can appreciate my my shelf of comics and toys.
Absolutely, yeah. There's even a creature mask back there, so
That's
much
true.
respect for that. Yeah, yeah. And that may be the first time on the show that I've had the chance to use the word accoutrement as well. So
Ooh,
that's pretty exciting. So I don't even know, like there have been so many books that you've done. I tend to list a couple of titles at the beginning, but you've worked on a lot of things. I'll mention some of maybe the three big highlights to me, three big highlights or so. One of those being, of course, Jughead, the horror take in the Archie universe. Really enjoy that, as well as you're currently working on the Miss Marvel book with Miss Marvel herself, from what
that's
I understand.
correct. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And the Blue Flame is also a favorite of mine as well.
Oh, oh, very cool.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
The Blue Flame is one of those books where wanted more people to get on it, because I'm very proud of it. But whenever I do hear somebody has checked it out, it makes me very happy.
Oh, yes, yeah, absolutely. Great series, great run. Vault Comics, I believe it was. Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, very, very interesting book. Indeed, indeed. It was Christopher Cantwell was the writer. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, yeah, I thought so. So those are three big ones to me that I know that I always like to give space to the guest to also share some of the highlights that are most memorable for them as well. So we'll certainly come back around to that, but curious about what it was about comics that's connected you and what comics allow you to do and the stories that you want to tell.
Well, I comics was or comic books, I should say. It was I think for like a lot of kids, it was one of the first things that I began reading when I was learning to read. But even before I could really read, it was one of the first ways that I um learned to tell a story.
Hmm.
So or like I could follow the stories visually, which is, the great thing about comic books is that, there's different streams of information within every page. So you don't necessarily need to read all of the captions and balloons to follow along. Um, and for many years, I didn't read them.
Hmm.
I but
Hmm.
I was picking up on, like, I was absorbing the visual language of comic books before I actually started reading them like I was supposed to. But comics and visual storytelling, um, I connected with that because for a long time it was the best way for me to convey things that I didn't yet have a vocabulary for when I was very young.
Hmm.
So, drawing things helped me get my point across in some cases. In other cases, it was just I had these, movies in my brain that I could see and I could hear, and I had to get them down on paper. And I can, I didn't know it then, but I can look back now and I could see that drawing often was a way for me to process a lot of things that I, as a kid, not even aware that I was going through, but was going through, like,
Hmm. Hmm.
as I was discovering, the world and different, things in life, I would draw and sort of, you know, experience all of that through my drawing. And so, and often when I would draw as a kid, it wasn't just static poses or pinups. Like, I was drawing scenes. I was drawing things going on. So, even within like a single sheet of printer paper or letter paper, even with just one image, it was just, it was a lot of stuff happening. So,
Hmm.
um, it would be a long time before I would, create, draw a page where there was like different panels of different things going on. But I mean, like, I was always telling stories in that fashion. And eventually, when I discovered comic books, I saw an application for what I was already doing, more or less.
Hmm.
And I just connected with all of it, like, superheroes, like, fantasy, all that stuff. Like, it was all within this, 22 page floppy thing, and I was all about it pretty much from the start.
Love it, love it. You said a lot of wonderful things there to really tap into. One of them being just the short space of comics and how much creativity is packed in, but also having sort of a visual vocabulary for experiences, for things that you might be thinking about that you don't quite have the words for yet, which I really appreciate about comics as well. Yeah.
Yeah, like I'm very grateful that I had access to all of that. Like, I didn't, as a kid, I never had like a huge collection of comic books. It was whatever I could get my hands on with an allowance or whatever somebody would buy or bring home for me. So, I was extrapolating a lot from very little,
Hmm.
but
Hmm.
even with that, like every comic book is like, so much work goes into every issue of any comic book, and there's, so much in any single comic to unpack, especially for a little kid. So they're like nuts in a way that they're very calorie dense.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, yeah, very packed experiences. And you were also talking about not really going with the words in the word balloons as a younger reader. And I know that that first issue of Huntress that I read in the late 80s, I was not picking up on everything that was happening, but there was a lot of visual support there for sure, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So curious about sort of the stories that you're drawn to because you've created in a lot of different universes for a lot of different publishers with a lot of collaborators. What is it about a story that stands out to you?
um well, I a lot of what I do is, like when you're working for publishers on a work for hire basis, you're not always picking and choosing the projects that you're taking on. And that's, like, so it's, I can't, I don't want to answer in a way that makes it seem like I'm scrutinizing everything and just only taking what attracts me. Cause, sometimes, that can be kind of a luxury, like I'm often just really grateful to be working, to be honest with you. And but having said that, I have been very lucky to work on some pretty cool stuff that you know uh, in all sorts of genres. And I can't say that I'm more attracted to one thing over another in terms of genre or what the kind of story is. It just it's like I hope for like a well-written script, and like part of the challenge with what I do, and especially as a work for hire artist, is to bring the best out of any script that I'm given.
Hmm.
And so like I with any script that I sit down with, I read it, and like I'm reading it several times, but my first pass at it is just to you know see what's there, and then I'll read it again, and I try to you know, uh, de depending on whether like I'm jumping onto a series in the middle of a run, or if this is a new story that we're doing, like there may or may not be a lot of back and forth between myself and the writer or
Mm-hmm.
editorial. Um, so like I do my best to, you know, do as much heavy lifting on my own as I can. And so the first few times that I read the script, it's really just to get as much out of the story as I can. Like, like what are the big moments in this story? What are the moments that I should really punctuate with my art that I'm trying to sell?
Mm-hmm.
And like break it down mentally like that. And then after a third or fourth read, that's when I'm kind of in storytelling mode where I'm trying to visualize everything. Um, and like if it's something more creator owned where I can be more hands on, I tend to have more conversations with the writer about what we want to do, what we're trying to achieve, and how flexible everybody is with me kind of putting putting my stamp on everything. And so like you mentioned the Blue Flame earlier, so I mean that's an example of like it was with Vault, but it was a creator owned. So Chris and I and Kurt were the colorist. We were building everything from the ground up, so it required lengthy conversations about every detail, every facet of the book.
Mm-hmm.
But like I've most of my year this year, it's been a lot of like really fun work for hire stuff at Marvel or
Mm-hmm.
Boom. So as you said, I did some work on Ms. Marvel, the New Mutant,
Mm-hmm.
and like in a project like that, it's harder to kind of make it your own in a way because this is a pre-existing character
Mm-hmm.
in a story, like like you're coming in and so much of the world that it exists in is already happening. and
Yeah.
and and even the book itself has a trajectory because Marvel understands where everything is moving towards a year
Mm-hmm.
from now. And so like in that situation, it's just like you do your job to the best of your ability. But in the case of Miss Marvel, even that was a unique experience because it was Iman Vellani's debut as a comic book writer,
Mm-hmm.
and she's writing the character that she plays on television and film.
Right.
And
Right.
so that's a huge deal. And so really it was sort of like I was working in service of that. She was very much the star of that book.
Mm-hmm.
But what was remarkable about it was how collaborative she made the experience. She was very much involved with, she had co-written the script with Sabir, but even as I was handing in layouts and drawing pages, she had a wealth of feedback and discussion about uh, what she wanted out of the book. So it was really, she was profoundly invested in the material, and that was really cool because on a lot of like big two stuff, that's not always necessarily the case. Like
Right.
everybody's being professional. But the way it usually works is that the editor is the intermediary, so the writer has written the script, and it's they've jumped through all of their hoops to get the script ready for me,
Mm-hmm.
and so then that script is relayed to me through the editor. So whenever I'm asking questions, it's primarily through the editor. So it was a rare delight to work with a writer so closely on that project. Um, but I'm also in the middle of drawing an arc for Star Wars Darth Vader with Marvel.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And, and you know that's that's also a very unique experience in that, like, Star Wars is such a well-defined universe that
Yeah.
there's so much that you have to adhere to. And and I'm working with everything I do has to go through Marvel, but then there's the added step of going through Lucasfilm.
Mhm.
um, so there's a few more cooks in the kitchen, and like it's challenging because when you draw Vader, everybody's seen the movies, so they know what Vader is supposed to look like, and
Right.
everybody has seen those spaceships, so everybody knows what those spaceships are supposed to look like. So there's added pressure there. But at the same time, it's like, you know, you're in a playground that you love and are familiar with, so there's like just the excitement of that. So yeah, like I going back to what you asked earlier, so when in terms of what attracts me to different projects, like it's there's things that I have turned down, and I always, my mentality is to stay hungry as an artist. So it's always tough for me when I have to turn something down, just because I never know, like every project in a way honestly sounds really fun, and I always think like, man, I could probably rock that if I do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And and but I I guess lately I when I'm offered projects, I do think, um, how will this challenge me artistically? Um, is this going to push me in ways that make me a better artist, make me a better storyteller, and also like like uh, is this a project that might help elevate my profile in the world of comics,
Mhm.
which like could benefit me in terms of like being able to choose my next project, and like that. So I do I'm you know I'm it's I think I've been at this for over 10 years now, so I I am, as much as I say like I'm taking anything that I can get, there is a little bit of thought, in the back of my mind about, about what to take and what not to take. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I took the scenic route on that answer.
No, it's great. It's great. Um, so the creative trajectory, you've got that in mind, and it's great to hear as well about the collaboration, even with a big two, a major project, and great to hear of that sort of thumbprint that's on Miss Marvel. So many actors, well, not so many, but there are a small number of actors. Paul Dano now writing uh, some of the issues of Riddler, and Danny DeVito stepping in and doing some
Yeah.
Penguin. So it's really cool to sort of hear about that involvement from people who are embodying those characters, and clearly, as it is the case with Iman, has a love for them in some way.
Oh yeah, in a big, big way. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Any other particular collaborators that you'd like to point out that have been really generative before we talk about what's next in the trajectory?
Gosh, well, I've genuinely enjoyed working with. I can't think of a person that I haven't enjoyed working with, to be perfectly honest. And every you know every working relationship is very meaningful to me, just because it's in part because comics is a business of relationships, and also because I kind of feel, I don't know if I would hope that this is mutual, but I always feel that, or at least I would hope that, every project is collaborative, and it brings you close with the people that you're working with, like
Mhm.
like I said before, making a single comic is a lot of work. It's hard work, and everybody's doing their best to make it happen. And I think that when you work as a team, that's recognized. And so once it's done, like there is a sense where like we did it, and
Mhm.
it's a good feeling. And so like Matthew Rosenberg, who I worked with on New Mutants, Dead Souls, um, he's a writer whose stuff I really enjoy. he's funny. He's also just very, you know, he's also very kind and generous as a collaborator. So I liked working with him a lot. And
Hmm.
Ed Brisson is somebody that I started out with. We created the Violent together at Image, and I like Ed a lot. I respect him, and he's also, he's I don't want to say that he's not warm. He's warm, but he's he's somebody that I like. I worry that he's unimpressed with me in a way. He's a cool customer, and I don't think he tries to be. Like, it's not a front or anything like that. I just
Hmm.
he's a cool cat, and but he writes really sharp scripts
Hmm.
that I like
Hmm.
a lot. Um, and then like on the Blue Flame, Chris Cantwell, he's a big sweetheart. And like a busy guy, but never too busy to give me anything that I needed on that book. And those are just those are just the names that can come to mind. Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
The danger with a question like that is leaving somebody out. But I always like to ask about, those creative relationships that uh, kind of come back over and over again. So, with the proviso that it's okay that there are lots of people out there that you've worked with as well.
Yeah, it's the thing is that like I've got something of a track record now, so I think I could be forgiven if I've forgotten anybody. But yeah, um yeah, I think it's pretty wonderful that I can't think of a bad experience. So that's,
Absolutely. Yeah,
having trouble counting all of my nice experiences is a good problem to have.
that's right. Very true. Very true. Um, been very pleased on the podcaster side with everyone that's been so kind to come on, and I'm assuming the people that aren't as kind just haven't gotten back to me. So that works. It works. So last official question, and we can of course hit anything that we might have missed, and that is future directions. I know Vader, as you mentioned, is currently underway, but anything that you can talk about, or any hints or glimmers of future work that you'd like to mention before we close?
Yeah, sure. So actually, The Witcher, The Lesser
Mm,
Evil, a
hmm.
graphic novel from Dark Horse Comics is out today being Wednesday. Um, so that's like it's like a 50 something page hardcover. So that's pretty fresh. It's pretty new. I've got a 4 issue arc on Star Wars Darth Vader from Marvel Comics that'll start in January. So I'll be kicking off the new year with that.
Hmm.
Um, I also drew an issue of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers,
Nice, nice.
which is coming out from Boom also in January. So a big month for me. But it's just for the 1 issue, but fans won't want to miss it. Stuff happens. And beyond that, I have another graphic novel that'll be out next year, I believe. So that's I can't say much about that other than it's pretty metal. Um, so I'm excited to talk more about that when I can.
Hmm.
Um, I may be doing more Godzilla work. I wrote and illustrated a one shot of Godzilla for IDW, I think the year before, which was really really fun. So I might be doing some more work there. And
Awesome.
then like uh, I have a few things like I intend to do some creator owned stuff just because I enjoyed the experience of writing and drawing, that I'd like to get more out of it. It is it's always a little scary, because like in a sense you're choosing between a stable paycheck with doing something creator owned, and you're taking a big risk there. So but I would like to start finding time to write stuff for myself, and then developing a project of my own. but yeah, I that's everything that I can think of at the moment. Quite honestly, I've had such an incredibly busy year.
Hmm.
Over the summer, I was working on 4 projects simultaneously.
Wow, wow, yeah.
So I am, you know, after this arc, I am gonna take at least a month off if I can and recuperate
Hmm.
and collect myself. But that's as far as I've thought.
Well-deserved time of rest coming up. And I saw a picture of you on social media that had your hands covered in ink. So that must have been the process of digging in with all of that work and doing all those things.
Yeah, you could say that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, Adam, thank you so much for the time in the midst of everything that you have going on. And I always appreciate your work in comics. Anything that we've missed that you want to make sure to share before we wrap up?
Oh goodness. You can follow me online on Instagram at Adam T. Gorham and Blue Sky if you have it, and X, Twitter, or whatever. Same
Mhm.
deal, same handle. I'm posting art fairly frequently and trying to keep people up to date on all that. Um, but I think I've given up all the goods I've got so far. So
Fantastic, fantastic. Who is the action figure in the windowsill?
that is a Ashley Wood doll.
Oh,
Um,
nice,
so
nice.
nobody in particular, but one of Ashley Wood's uh, designer designer figures.
Very
I,
cool.
yeah, I snagged that at a toy show. They're usually crazy expensive if you can find them because they sell out quick and then they get sold by second or third party
Hmm.
sellers for anyway. So I saw it and I knew that I had to have it.
Fantastic, fantastic. Well, on that note, thank you again and glad to talk anytime.
Yeah, likewise, Jason. Thank you.